Saline High School, Class 2002. Nathan Bomey is a national business reporter for USA Today based in Washington, D.C. area, where he covers business trends, breaking news, and the auto industry. Before joining USA Today in 2015, Nathan was a reporter for several years at the Detroit Free Press, where he covered General Motors and the Detroit bankruptcy. He previously served as a reporter for several publications in Michigan, including his first journalism job as a staff writer for the Saline Reporter while he was in high school and college. A 2006 graduate of Eastern Michigan University, Nathan is the author of 2 books, After the Fact and Detroit Resurrected. He is also the winner of several national journalism awards, including the National Headliner Award, awarded in April for the coverage of the nation's pedestrian safety crisis. In addition to his job at USA Today, Nathan is also currently serving as the principal scriptwriter on a full-length documentary film on Detroit bankruptcy. As a 2002 Saline High School graduate, Nathan served as the feature editor in the Golden State student newspaper under the leadership of Mr. Hill, pitched for the varsity baseball team under Coach Tyson, and served in the National Honor Society, among other activities. Please welcome to the podium Mr. Nathan Bomey.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that, and I kind of wish I had all that on my resume when I was applying for colleges, but no, I do appreciate the wonderful introduction. It's really such a thrill to be here. This is truly surreal, and so, to the class of 2019, I have to say congratulations, of course, on this momentous occasion. The day is finally here. You thought it would never come. So you thought to yourself, I will never finish this paper for Mr. Hill's Film as Literature class. You thought to yourself, I will never puzzle out the right sentence structure for Ms. O'Harris's grammar composition class. Maybe you thought to yourself, I will never remember who died first. Was it Adams or Jefferson for Mr. Schmear's AP history exam? Or perhaps you thought to yourself, my fingers are going to freeze to this trumpet while Mr. Lampman makes me endure this 6:45 a.m. marching band practice in November with the wind chill of 19 degrees. That last one is a true story, I'm told. But you persevered, you made it through. Ultimately, you dug deep and you embraced the challenge, and you're better for it. So, more challenges are coming. More change is coming. How will you react? I remember my graduation from Saline High School in 2002. I was sitting exactly where you are. Okay, so not exactly where you are. I attended SHS at the old high school building on Maple Road. We had 1,600 students in a building made for only 800. That place was jam-packed with students. Teachers were holding classes in trailers. I remember it was so crowded that at times you'd be walking to class, you just have to stop for a minute because the hallway was so thick with students that you simply couldn't walk any further. Saline High School was a much different place back then, and I'm not just talking about the building. When I was a student here, we had 2 semesters. Now apparently you've got 3. When I was playing varsity baseball for Coach Tyson, Hornet time meant showing up 10 minutes early for a 6 a.m. morning conditioning workout. Now Hornet time is a weekly class of some sort. And back when I was here, the Saline football team, I'm sorry to say, could barely defeat Milan. Chelsea was unbeatable, and you could forget about Pioneer. So fast forward to last November, and I'm completely glued to Twitter, of all things, at some pizza place near my apartment in Arlington, Virginia, as I followed live tweets about the football team's playoff game against Rockford. When the Hornets pulled off a jaw-dropping defensive stand to advance to the Final Four, I felt like sprinting to a nearby store to buy some blue and gold flags so I could unfold them to the sky. So what a season. So Saline has changed a lot in the 17 years since I've graduated, and so has the world. When I graduated, Mark Zuckerberg was still 2 years away from creating Facebook. Steve Jobs was still 5 years away from launching the iPhone. YouTube and Instagram didn't exist. Snapchat was a long way off, and Twitter was a verb that meant to utter successive chirping noises. Maybe you're sitting there thinking, that's all interesting, but I passed Mr. Gumenick's history class and I don't need another lesson now. So I get that. But no matter what, you can bet that the world will never stop changing from the moment you walk out of this stadium tonight. The question is, how will you react? What impact will you make on the world? Will you change it for the better or for the worse? When I think about how much the world has changed since I graduated, it's pretty wild. You know, when I was a student here, I used the card catalog to do research for school papers. That tells you all you really need to know right there. We've gotten all these amazing new digital tools to communicate since I graduated. It's certainly made research for my stories at USA Today a lot easier. You know, it's changed the world in many ways, and in some ways for the better. It's all supposed to help us learn more about the world around us. And yet we seem to be more polarized and more isolated. We are increasingly divided along fault lines of race, religion, politics, class, and culture. We use social media to cloister together in like-minded groups. We don't talk to people with different perspectives. We distrust. Some of us even hate. You know, call me naive, but I think that many of the world's challenges come from the fact that people don't understand each other. But often we don't understand each other because we won't even talk to each other. We won't talk to people who aren't like us, and we certainly won't listen to each other. You know, I had the privilege of starting my journalism career at Saline High School when the student newspaper, The Golden Sting, was still alive and well. It was the defining experience of my high school career. Mr. Hill taught us the fundamentals of news reporting, including story structure and journalism ethics. Every month, we reported and edited stories about a wide range of topics. Everything from uncomfortable issues like hazing to breezy topics like the latest fashion trends. That was when I began to discover the power of journalism to make an impact on the world, to keep our leaders accountable, and to tell the truth, even when it makes us uncomfortable. As journalists, we're sometimes subjected to accusations of bias or sensationalism, people who say we're purveyors of fake news, perhaps. And I'll be the first to say that journalism isn't perfect. We don't always get it right. But ultimately, I believe that journalism is the lifeblood of a healthy democracy because it forces us to confront the truth face to face. We can't ignore it. And I believe the truth is vital to helping us understand each other despite our differences. I've experienced it firsthand. Journalism has enabled me to meet people who aren't like me. It has allowed me to learn more about people who have different beliefs than I do. And it's given me the opportunity to get to know people who are making a difference by helping others. I'm not sure what you'll do after you leave here. Maybe you'll join the Coast Guard and help protect the nation from all threats, foreign and domestic, like my fellow 2002 Saline grad, Mary Arvidsson. Maybe you'll become mayor of Saline and make a difference in your community, like 2003 grad Brian Morrow. Or maybe you'll become an elementary school teacher in Detroit and make a difference in the lives of kids, like my brother Dan, a 2005 grad. Whatever you do, I have only one piece of advice for you. Resolve to meet people who aren't like you. Resolve to make friendships with people who have had different life experiences. And resolve to seek out opportunities to learn from others who have different opinions. As life goes on for you, you'll encounter more and more people who are profiting from tearing others apart. Don't be one of those people. Be a bridge builder. Be someone who seeks to bridge the gaps between others. Be someone who learns to appreciate the differences in others, because that's the only way we can move forward together. Okay, I know what you're saying. There are some gaps that can never be bridged. Like Saline and Pioneer, right? I mean, never gonna happen. Michigan and Ohio State, you know, never in a million years. But I believe that conversation and community are still possible, even in these polarized times. We don't have to agree with each other to respect each other. So I realized I graduated in 2002, but I started Saline High School in 1998. So I'm a kid of the 90s in a lot of ways. And I grew up on Disney films like Aladdin and The Lion King, which are coming out again this year. So I guess in some ways the world never changes. I'm not sure if those movies have made Mr. Hill's film as literature class yet. They certainly should, so it's time to update that syllabus, Mr. Hill. But there's a lyric from one of those movies that stuck with me. It goes like this. You think the only people who are the people who look and think like you. But if you walk the footsteps of a stranger, you'll learn things you never knew. If you choose isolation and division and hateful rhetoric, you'll simply worsen this polarized culture that has prevented us from addressing some of the most important challenges that we face. But if you get to know people who aren't like you, if you consider life from their perspectives, you'll gain respect and appreciation for each other. And maybe, just maybe, you can work together to change the world. Listen, we could spend today talking about college and career aspirations and everything that entails. Money, power, fame. All of those things can be good, and you can use them to change the world for the better. But ultimately, I think that the best way to change the world is to simply walk the footsteps of a stranger, even if they're from Pioneer or Ohio State. Thanks so much, and congratulations, class of 2019.